What's happening around the world and what's happening here at home?
Very good evening and welcome to Primetime News here on TV1. Today is Wednesday, the 30th of August, 2023. For the Newswitch team, I am Pirini Karunaratna.
And I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Final Randoli Perahara of the Asala Perahara parades the streets of Kandy. President visits chief prelates and Anunayaka Theros of Malwatu and Asgiri chapters. Proposal to hand over another project to India's Adani. Sinopec begins operations in Sri Lanka. Who will win the Asia Cup 2023? Taxes on wheat flour increased.
The final Randoli Perahara of the historic Asala Mahaperahara commenced a short while ago in Kandy. The Perahara features the participation of numerous dancers and adorned elephants from the Sabaragamuwa and central provinces. The ongoing Asala Perahara at the Temple of the Truth commenced on the 21st of August 2023.
That is the prominently seen drum used in dance-related performances. And we also hear a version known as the Karakavi Merabana, or the spinning tambourine that is right in front of us, which is in fact the same Atrabana with a dent carved in its middle.
The spinning game of the Rabana can be identified.
Today marks the Nikini Full Moon Poya Day, a significant day in the Buddhist calendar.
According to Buddhist history, the first Dhamma sermon, Anandathero attaining the state of Rahat, and the commencement of construction of the Seruvavila Mangala Chaitya, enshrining relics of Lord Buddha, happened on a day like today. According to the rules of the Buddha Sasana, Upasampada bhikkhus who were unable to perform the Peravas ritual on the previous full moon Poya day will perform the Pasuvas ritual on this Poya day. Buddhist devotees who visited temples located across the island since early this morning engaged in religious rituals. News First correspondents said that large crowds were gathered at sacred sites in Kandy, Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa. The Sirasa TV Poya Day event was held today centering the Malwatu Mahaviharaya in Kandy and the historic Levalla Gangarama Viharaya. The program commenced in the morning after observing Atasil and an offering of Kiryahara or milk-based food. Today's Sirasa Damsara Dhamma sermon was conducted by Venerable Professor Siambalagoda Dhammindathero of Mahanama College, Colombo. The rich history of the Malwatu Mahaviharaya was discussed during the Vihara Asana discussion program. The Sannasa Erudite program conducted to develop the Sambuddha Sasana was held thereafter. Chief Sanganayaka of the Ratnapura Mahadisava, Venerable Vaturukumbure Dhammaratana Himi, attended the program. The Turunasita Dhamma discussion was conducted by Venerable Sagama Anumadasi Thero. Senior tutor Akila Vimangasena Viratna also attended the event. The South Puma program focused on the Sacred Tooth relic. Ape Pansala discussion program was conducted with the participation of Venerable Pahamune Gunananda Thero and a group director of the Capital Maharaja Group, S.C. Virosekara. The Podisadugan Ahanna program was held thereafter. The Sirasa Poya Day event concluded this evening with an Aushadha Puja. The Gammadha Damsavya program was held today centering the Kundasala Raja Mahaviharaya in Kandy, situated close to the Mahaveli river. This temple is said to be constructed by the final Sinhala king of Sri Lanka, Sri Veeraparakama Narendra Singha. The special Dhamma sermon of today's Damsavya program was conducted by Venerable Hasalaka Silavimala Thero. Group Director of the Capital Maharaja Group, Shivan Daniel, was present at the occasion.
We are
very happy to see renowned companies coming forward to seek out isolated Buddhist places of worship such as this and highlighting them to the world. President Ranil Wickremesinghe says he will appoint committees led by religious leaders from respective provinces to address religious concerns in the north and east.
The President made these remarks after he met with the Malwatu and Asgiri Mahanayaka Theros and the Anunayaka Thero and received their blessings.
During President Ranil Wickremesinghe's visit to the Malwatu Mahaviharaya, he engaged in a brief dialogue with the Chief Prelate, Most Venerable Sri Sumangala Thera. The President also visited the Anunayaka Thera of the Malwatu chapter, the Most Venerable Dimbulkumure Sri Vimaladhamma Thera, and received his blessings. President Ranil Wickremesinghe visited the Askari Mahaviharaya, where he received blessings from the Chief Prelate of the Askari chapter, Most Venerable Varakagura Sri Jnanarathna Thera. He then paid a visit to the Anunayaka of the Askari chapter of the Siam sect, Venerable Vanderway Upali Thera, and received his blessings. During the President's interaction with the Anunayaka of the Askari chapter, the Most Venerable Dhammadasi Thera, he spoke about the government's reform program aimed at revitalizing the economy, including the agricultural modernization initiative.
Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is කෘත්‍රිම මනසක මේකද ඕක අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තොත් ඇති ලෝකෙට ඉස්සරහට ඉන්නේ. මොකද තේරවාද බෞද්ධ රටවල් අතරින් තාම කවුරුත් ඉස්සරහට ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ. තායිවාන් ඉස්සරහින් ඉන්නවා අපි එක්ක අපි දැන් අපේ රටවල් දෙක තමයි ඉස්සරහට එන්න ඕනේ.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe also spoke about appointing committees to address religious concerns in the north and east.
අපි අවධානය යොමු කරලා තියෙන හැම එකම ඒ තියෙන ස්ථාන ඔක්කොම අපි ඊට පස්සේ ආරක්ෂා කරන්න ක්‍රියා කරනවා. ඒ වගේම මම බැලුවේ විශේෂයෙන් අපි කතා කරේ ප්‍රධාන ආගමික නායකයන් කීප දෙනෙක්ගෙන් කොමිටියක් පත් කරන මේන ප්‍රශ්න ටිකක් එනවා නම් එතනම සාකච්ඡා කරන්න ආපහු උසාවිය යන්න උවමනා නැහැ.
ඉඩම් උනත් ඉතින් අර අනවශ්‍ය ගැටුමක් නොවෙන්න පළාත් සභාවලින් වෙනම ක්‍රමයක් ගියොත්
නෑ.
ඊළඟට එක නීතියක් තවත් එකක් ගියා මේ දෙක ගැටුනොත් එහෙම හරි
නෑ. ඉඩම් නීතිය අපිට ගෙනියන්න පුළුවන් ජාතික මට්ටමේ. ඒ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන එක තමයි පළාත් සභාවට දෙන්නේ. නීතිය ජාතික මට්ටමේ සකස් වෙනවා.
එතකොට පළාත් සභාවලට බරතර වැඩි වුණොත් තමයි උතර ගැටලුව
ඒක එන්නේ. මොකද ඉඩමක් පළාත් සභාවේද නැද්ද කියලා තීරණය කරන්න ජාතික ඉඩම් කොමිසම තියෙනවා.
Chance as well. It's all went for four.
The 2023 edition of the Asia Cup kicked off today with the first match taking place between Pakistan and Nepal in Multan. The opening ceremony was enlivened by Pakistani and Nepali artists.
Game ever of the year. Head of occasion.
In Group B, co-hosts of the tournament, Sri Lanka take on Bangladesh in Kandy's Pallekele tomorrow at 3 p.m. local time. TV1 is the official local broadcaster for the 2023 Asia Cup, and the match will be broadcast live on TV1 and on www.citizenstv.lk. In Morocco news, state banks were open today only to pay the Aswasama social welfare benefits. State Minister of Finance Ranjit Simlapitiya said that state bank branches were kept open till 3 p.m.
Even though it was decided to keep the state banks open to pay the Aswasama welfare benefits, some branches of state banks in Kudakavela were closed today.
बैंकों में अरिनो के लगे अपने साथ आवा आवाट बातें बैंकी ना एक लोग में बैंको अरिन्ना के लगा आवाट तेंगारी को मिलबिटे तेंगारी खाली करने बुलवान के लिए अन्य क्यों आप ये आगे बाहर भीतर है एक एक कभी लगुआ में बैंको अरिन्ना दे अन्य गिरा
Aswasama Samruddhi benefits were paid at some of the state banks today. Some state bank branches were open in Kurunegala to pay the Aswasama Samruddhi benefits.
हाली आइले नहीं किया दस दिवस का हो जाए आदत नहीं 10,000 रुपया ही आता है ऐसे को 10 दिवस देसी है
हाली लेना है आप में लिखवा ये लिखा है ये लेकर रुपया 10 किलो साली बात तम बनाना का मकसद.
The people were helpless due to some of the state bank branches being closed today.
සල්ලි ගන්න විදියක් නැහැ. දැන් ඇවිල්ලා කට්ටිය හිටියා මෙතන 50ක් විතර හිටියා. දැන් කට්ටිය එක එක්කෙනා ගියා යන්න.
දැන් මෙතන බැංකුව වහලා. ඉතින් මිනිස්සු රත්ත්‍යා දෙනවා මේකෙන්. කුලී වැඩ කරන මිනිහෙකුට කුලී වැඩක් කරගන්නත් නැහැ. ඊයේත් වැඩ නැහැ අදත් වැඩ නැහැ.
This is a situation that could be seen near the state banks in Banduramba. Some banks were closed even though people had gathered to collect their payments. This is how the beneficiaries gathered in Varakapula near state banks. Aswasama beneficiaries had gathered near the state banks in Badulla to collect their benefits today. State banks in Hambantota were kept open since morning to pay the Aswasama welfare benefits. But the funds weren't credited to the accounts of many people who came to collect their benefits.
පරිපාලනයේදී අහුවම කෝ 5000 ලිස්ට් එකේ ඉන්නේ කියලා. දැන් බැංකුවට ආවම කියනවා 2500 වැටලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා.
Some beneficiaries of Gampala also had not received the funds.
රුපියල් 200ක් වань බොහොම වරින් ආවේ. ඉතින් දැන් අපිට ආපහු යන්නත් සල්ලි නැහැ නේ. අපි බලාපොරොත්තු තමයි ආවේ.
Long queues were seen near state banks in Agarapatana and Norelia since the Aswasama beneficiaries came to receive their benefits. A shop owner was seen assisting the people who were waiting in long queues to access their accounts online to check whether they had received the funds.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa expressed his views at a meeting held with Grama Niladari officials who were inconvenienced by the chaotic situation in implementing the Aswasama social welfare program.
I must very clearly state that this government is a mess. They do not know how to do anything right. They also have no plan. What they are doing now is performing political stunts. They go to various parts of the country and make fake promises. This is all a political gamble. I must say that this should stop. All these lies, fraud and secret deals must stop. If not, we would not be able to get out of our state of bankruptcy. The Aswasama program is being carried out with no proper analysis by spending millions of rupees.
Another patient with the meningococcal virus or brain fever has been reported from the Colombo district. The patient, who is a resident of Jaila, is currently receiving treatment at the National Hospital.
Colombo District Health Services Director Chandana Gajanayake says that a patient suffering from the meningococcal virus or brain fever is being treated at the National Hospital. This 48-year-old man is a resident of the Jaila area. The Colombo District Health Services Director says that the patient works at an institution in the Ratmalana area. Steps have been taken to provide the necessary antibiotics to those who came in contact with him and his family. Brain fever was identified among inmates at the Gaul prison recently. 2 inmates who contracted the disease died and several were hospitalized. However, Deputy Director General of Health Services Dr. G. Vijay Surya says that there appears to be no connection between the patient receiving treatment at the Colombo National Hospital and the patients from the Gaul prison. Meanwhile, the Medical and Civil Rights Professional Association called for immediate attention and action to be taken on this matter.
A request has been made to the Director of Health Services in charge of the Western Province as well as the Director of Health Services in charge of the Southern Province regarding the measures to be taken to control the spread of brain fever in the Western and Southern Provinces, as well as reducing the irrational fears that parents may have, and also to form a proper mechanism and inform the people in this regard.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority Professor S.T. Jayaratne also commented on this.
When meningitis occurs, we immediately prescribe antibiotics to everyone around the patient. When the disease spreads, an antibiotic called ciprofloxacin is given. Then it does not spread to other patients. Meningitis could be reported from around the island.
The chairman of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority, Professor S.D. Jayaratne, admitted today that certain substandard medicines have been imported to Sri Lanka.
We will conduct investigations into every single death. All those medicines will be removed from use. That is not possible. We have blacklisted those companies. Some substandard medicines have been imported. I admit that the medicine used for eye illnesses is one such medicine.
The chairman of the NMRA made these comments when he participated in a workshop held today under an American aid program.
The Department of Meteorology expects rainy conditions to continue in the southwestern parts of the island in the next few days.
The Department of Meteorology says that rain may be experienced from time to time in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central and northwestern provinces and Galle and Mathura districts. The weather forecast indicates that the western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and Galle and Mathura districts may experience heavy rains up to 75 millimeters. It is stated in the weather forecast that rains may occur in the eastern and Uva provinces and in the Polonnaruwa, Mullaitivu and Vavuniya districts. The Department of Meteorology says that strong winds of about 40 to 45 kilometers per hour may occur on the western slopes on the central hills and in the western and Sabaragamuwa provinces. Meanwhile, people of 18 districts have been affected by the dry weather conditions. The Disaster Management Center says that 291,804 people from 84,681 families have been affected so far. About 80 acres of paddy fields in Lunugambehera, Mahalutgammara, Ambagahavatta have been destroyed by the dry spell. Farmers point out that this situation has arisen due to the non-availability of water to these paddy fields under the Mawara water project. This is how some fields cultivated in Karulagaswever, Pulinkulama and Nelumwever have been destroyed due to the dry weather. Other land crops including peanuts are also being destroyed by the drying up of the water in the weather.
අපිට මේ ස්ථීර ජල මාර්ගයක් ඇවිල්ලා තිබ්බනම් මේ ප්‍රශ්නෙට විසඳුමක් ලෙස අපි දකිනවා. අනිත් එක රාජාංගණයෙන් යල් කන්නේට මාස් කන්නේට මේ ඔය දිගේ ගලා යනවා මොහොතට වතුර. ඒ වතුර ටික අපිට මේ දීලා තිබුණා නම් මේ පොළොව තවත් සස්ත්‍රීය වෙනවා. ඒක හින්දිලා මිනිස්සුන්ට නාන්න බොන්න සතාසි උපවන්න වතුර නැහැ.
The import duty on wheat flour has been increased with the removal of import licenses since midnight yesterday.
The tax of 16 rupees imposed per kilogram of wheat flour will be increased to 27 rupees and an import tax of 6 rupees has been imposed for a kilogram of wheat kernels. State Minister for Finance Ranjit Singh Balapitiya said that the aim is to abolish the existing monopoly for the importation of wheat flour and reduce the price through a competitive market system.
News first with the people.
The Yapit Law School International Negotiation Competition 2023 kicked off today in Colombo.
The Yapit Law School International Negotiation Competition 2023 kicked off today. The three-day event, which is being held both online and in person, is the third edition of the competition and is designed to raise awareness of alternative dispute resolution techniques. Over 20 teams from around the world are participating in the competition, which will see them engage in a series of simulated negotiations. The team will be judged on their ability to identify and analyze the issues, develop creative solutions and communicate effectively. The opening ceremony was held this morning and the first round of negotiations will begin later today. The final round of negotiations will be held on the 3rd of September and the winning team will be announced at the closing ceremony. Justice Arjunobe Sekara was the chief guest of the event.
Negotiation is omnipresent. Whether between spouses discussing finances, employees and employees negotiating pay, potential business partners forming contracts, or nations or warring factions seeking peace. Negotiation is the universal response to emerging issues. This practice is our primary step towards resolution across diverse situations. Fundamentally, negotiation is about bargaining and discussing to reach a win-win solution. It entails voluntary listening and being heard by each other, is founded on good faith.
The competition is a valuable addition to the ADR education landscape and will help to raise awareness of ADR techniques around the world. panel discussion organized by the National Archives and the Embassy of the Kingdom of Netherlands was held in Colombo on Tuesday.
A panel discussion organized by the National Archives and the Embassy of the Kingdom of Netherlands on the topic restitution of artifacts was held in Colombo on Tuesday. The three panelists included Dutch State Secretary Gune Uslu and State Minister Taraka Balasurya and another representative from Netherlands.
Today we have gathered here one significant milestone in the context of our shared history. We have based on the acknowledgement of France for the people of two countries for the restitution of 6 artifacts to the rightful home in Sri Lanka. Colonialism is the self-exploitation, destruction and cultural appropriation that scars that run deep within the fabric of many nations and continues in different forms. The restitution process is reminding that history is not a one-sided narrative. It is a living story of emotions experienced from all sides. I hope that the moral example the Dutch government is setting will influence other colonial powers who return cultural properties in their position to its rightful owners. The restitution of cultural artifacts also has significant diplomatic implications. It showcases goodwill and the cooperation between the government of Sri Lanka and the Netherlands. This robust partnership will not only enhance our cultural cooperation, but will also support our mutual understanding and thus a multifaceted cooperation. In order to work as equal partners, more needs to be done. Let us embrace this opportunity to rewrite history, but through collaboration and respect.
I am here to give back important items to you on behalf of the Dutch state. It comprises 6 objects that should never have been in the Netherlands in the first place. More than 2.5 centuries ago, they were looted from your country. That is a long period of injustice. When the Dutch ruled in parts of Sri Lanka, unequal power relations prevailed. Therefore, we can definitely speak of involuntary loss of possession. And we, the Dutch government, find it important to acknowledge this. But that acknowledging is not enough. That would not be restoring injustice. Yesterday, we marked the official return of these 6 objects. I understand that this is very important for Sri Lanka, but it's also very important for the Netherlands. This restitution is a crucial step in coming into terms with our own colonial past. But it's also a promising new beginning. So let us not repeat the mistake of past centuries, so only considering it the Dutch perspective. Today we hope to move forward. We're not only returning objects, we're also embarking on a period of closer cooperation. I'm looking forward to working with Sri Lanka and finding other items that do not belong in Dutch collections but in your country, and bring these pieces home again.
The event took place at the National Archives Department.
A group of military officers announced they have seized power in the oil-rich Central African nation of Gabon early today in an attempt to end the 57-year-old rule of the Bongo family after President Ali Bongo Ondimba won a 3rd term in an election the opposition says was rigged.
Tensions have been running high in many parts of Africa in the past several months, with a civil war in Sudan and a military coup in Niger. It is the 8th military coup in West and Central Africa since 2020. Gunfire was heard in the capital Libreville following the announcement on national television, but it was not clear what was happening. The military said they had annulled the recent election, dissolved all state institutions and closed all borders. The military announced that in the name of the Gabonese people, they have decided to defend the peace by putting an end to the current regime. There was no immediate news of the whereabouts of President Bongo or any announcements from the government. Results of last Saturday's elections were delayed, internet access was blocked and a curfew was imposed before it was announced on Tuesday that the president had won a 3rd term with 64% of the vote. Major French TV stations were also banned. Terry Gou, founder of iPhone assembler Foxconn, said on Monday he would make an independent bid for Taiwan's presidency, adding to an increasingly crowded field for the 2024 January ballot. Go also pledged to grow Taiwan's economy and boost its technological prowess, saying he will make Taiwan overtake Singapore within 20 years and have the highest GDP per capita in Asia. Go said, quote, Taiwan should absolutely not become Ukraine. I will never let Taiwan be the next Ukraine. Go, who is also known as Go Tai Ming in Chinese, said, quote, I can guarantee that I'll bring 50 years of peace to the Taiwan Strait. Lai was the front runner in a poll published on Friday by the news site My Formosa. In a scenario of the 4 candidates, the vice president garnered 39.1% of support. Go was in last place with 12%. His entry is widely seen by analysts as benefiting the ruling party candidate by splitting opposition votes.
Still in news overseas, people in the path of Hurricane Idalia have been warned to evacuate without delay as the storm hurtles towards the U.S. state of Florida.
It is forecast to hit the Gulf Coast as a major Category 4 hurricane with winds up to 201 kilometers per hour on Wednesday morning. The National Hurricane Center warned Idalia would bring life-threatening weather to the state. Coastal areas would be deluged by a storm surge of up to 10 to 15 feet. The storm was upgraded to a Category 3 hurricane early on Wednesday morning with maximum sustained winds of 100 miles per hour. Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozin's press service said the burial of Wagner chief took place in a private funeral in St. Petersburg.
Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozin's press service said the ceremony in his home city was held in a closed format and all those, quote, wishing to say goodbye can visit the cemetery, unquote. The mercenary chief was confirmed dead by Russian officials after genetic analysis of 10 bodies found in a crashed plane on the 23rd of August near Moscow. The Kremlin has denied speculation it was to blame for the crash. All 10 people on board, including Prigozin's right-hand man Dmitry Utkin, died in the crash northwest of Moscow.
Low water levels caused by the drought are forcing restrictions on number of ships allowed to transit.
Some 150 vessels are stuck waiting to pass through the Panama Canal, one of the world's most important shipping routes. The growing backlog comes after months of drought in Central America. As a result of reduced rainfall, low water levels have limited the number of vessels allowed to go through. Cargo deliveries have been delayed and supply chains hit worldwide. The Panama Canal, a vital passageway that moves 6% of the world's maritime commerce, will extend transit restrictions due to drought-induced low water levels.
Taking a look back at news here at home, India has expressed displeasure that China has included areas belonging to India in their new map. Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin are the areas that have created such a discourse. The Hindu newspaper has reported that China's Ministry of Natural Resources published this map yesterday in conjunction with the National Map Awareness Week. In that map, Arunachal Pradesh of India is shown as South Tibet and the region captured by war in 1962 has been marked as Aksai Chin. The Hindu says that China has included several sea areas in the relevant map as well. The Hindu report adds that the Indian Prime Minister, who recently met with the Chinese President in South Africa, expressed regret over the lack of solutions to the border issues. Expressing his displeasure regarding this new map, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said that China cannot acquire land in this manner. Indian External Affairs Secretary Arindam Bakshi has also stated Arunachal Pradesh is an area that cannot be separated from India and the truth cannot be distorted by using new names.
Sinopec, which is now a part of Sri Lanka's fuel supply market, has commenced operation at its first fuel filling station.
The Mattegoda filling station, which was under the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, has been transferred to Sinopec from today. China Sinopec signed the agreement to enter the country's fuel supply market on the 22nd of May. According to the agreement, Sinopec has the right to import and distribute fuel for a period of 20 years. Newsfirst correspondent reported that fuel is sold at the Sinopec filling station as per CPETCO and IOC prices.
Member of Parliament Professor Charita Herath made a revelation regarding a plan by the government to illegally hand over plots of land in Manna and Punarin to the Adani Group in India for the purpose of establishing a power generation project and a transmission line. Professor Herath supported his claims, quoting information from a recently compiled cabinet paper.
On the 11th of March 2022, Sri Lanka signed a memorandum of understanding with India's Adani Group for an investment worth $442 million to set up wind and solar power projects generating 500 megawatts in Mana and Puneri. The agreement between the two parties was signed following a cabinet paper presented by then President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, and lands required for the project have already been demarcated. During a media briefing yesterday, Professor Charitha Herath revealed that another cabinet paper relating to this project by the Adani Group had been submitted on the 14th of August this year.
Permission has been sought to allow Adani Green Energy Limited in India to construct a 280 megawatt renewable energy project in Mana and a 234 megawatt renewable energy project in Puneri. The previous permission has been renewed. Anyone willing to invest in such a project must act according to the provisions of the Electricity Act number 20 of 2009. The latest cabinet paper brings out some interesting facts. This cabinet paper proposes the cabinet to consider this project as a government-to-government proposal. This begs the question, has Adani Green Energy Limited been accepted as representing the Indian government? If the Indian government has accepted it, we have no reservations. I wish to know the Attorney General's interpretation of this. The President called me after a meeting, I believe on the 24th of November, and I said that this should be awarded.
According to Section 43(4) of the Electricity Act, an open competitive tender process must be followed when such an investment is to be awarded to a private company. Section 43(4)(a)(1) of the Act states, a project of this nature can only be considered without a tender process if it is struck as a government-to-government proposal. The cabinet paper presented by then President Gotabaya Rajapaksa on the 2nd of March 2022 clearly notes that the project will be awarded to India's Adani Group without a tender process. Information justifying the reason for not following a competitive bidding process is also included in the document. It says the Adani Group's proposal must be considered as one being struck between the governments of India and Sri Lanka. But the Adani Group is not one which is owned by the Indian government. Instead, its owner is well-known business tycoon Gautam Adani. Yet, steps have been taken to carry out the Adani project as an agreement struck between the government of Sri Lanka and the government of India. When the Court queried the then chairman of the Ceylon Electricity Board, MMC Ferdinando, he provided contrasting responses.
මේ ඉන්දියානු අදානි සමාගමට ඒක පිළිගන්න තියෙන්නේ කොහොමද? ඉන්දියාවෙන් ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඉන්දියා රජයෙන් නිවේදනයක් තියෙනවද? ඉල්ලීමක් තියෙනවද? අපේ නියෝජිතයා මේ ඇයි කියන්නේ? මෙහෙමයි උනේ ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම ජනාධිපති.
The President called me after a meeting, I believe on the 24th of November, and said that this should be awarded to Adani because Indian Prime Minister Modi is forcing him to do so. At the time, I said this does not concern neither me nor the CEP, it concerns the BOI. Then, through a letter, I said the President has given me a directive and asked the Finance Secretary to take it up.
The contentious statement made by the former chairman of the CEB was later rejected by former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Later, the former chairman revoked the statement he made at the COP and also resigned from his post.
I did not have that letter with me. I did not remember it either. I then called the vice chairman and asked him if he had the letter. At around 4:51 on the 11th, he sent me the letter via WhatsApp. When reading the letter, I quickly realized there was more substance to it than mentioned.
As per this directive, I assume that this is a proposal of an investment backed by the government of India on the basis of the bilateral discussion between two heads of state. Therefore, on the above basis, it is logical to assume that this is an investment proposal on the basis of JG. මම ඒ වෙනකොට බරපතල ප්‍රශ්නයකට මුහුණ දීලා තිබුණා. එකක් මගේ අක්කගේ මහත්තයා මැරිලා අක්කගේ ප්‍රශ්න මට ඇවිල්ලා තිබුණා සුමාන දෙකක් ඇතුළත. මගේ නෝන අසනීපෙන්.
The latest cabinet paper highlighted by Professor Charitha Herath yesterday sheds further light on this agreement. This document includes information of an agreement inked during the incumbent president's visit to India this year, justifying the reason for the Adani project to be considered a government to government proposal. While issuing a justification on the matter, plans are also underway to provide the Adani Group greater space to broaden the project from the initial agreement struck in 2022. Professor Tariq Herat, speaking on the matter yesterday, said plans are afoot to allow the Adani Group to construct a transmission line disregarding a tender process. Transmission lines in the country can only be owned by the CEB. There is another serious aspect to this. No private company can handle transmissions, but now we can see an attempt by the minister to provide the construction of the transmission line to the private company. Permission has been sought to construct a 400 megawatt transmission line spanning 82.8 kilometers from Kilinochchi to the Habarana grid and the 47 kilometer transmission line of 220 megawatts from Puneri to Kilinochchi. The minister needs to clarify this. We have a right to question this. The president is one who was not elected by the people. Parliament is criticized by the people constantly. At a time like this, when such dubious transactions are done, the country needs to be made aware of them.
For a comprehensive report on these stories and much more, do check out our socials. With that being said, we wrap up News for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Sandra Ferdinando.
And I'm Theruni Karnaratna. Good night.